Let's bring in Philip Bump and Michael Graham. Michael is creative director at MediaDC, which publishes the Washington Examiner, the Weekly Standard, and Red Alert Politics. He's in our Washington bureau. And Philip is here in our New York studio. He's a national correspondent for the Washington Post. Gentlemen, welcome to you both.
Good evening.
So we'll talk about Congressman Chaffetz in just a moment. But Michael, let me start with you. How significant do you think is what we saw from Karen Handel in Georgia and Senators Lankford and Ernst?
Well, let's start with the Georgia race. I actually lived in that district until about 10 months ago and did talk radio in Atlanta talking to those voters. And when you have a district like my former Congressman Tom Price's, where the Democrat gets almost just 3,000 fewer votes by himself than all the Republicans got combined, that's an eye-opener. So if you're Ms. Handel and you've already lost a couple of races, you need all the wind at your back, particularly with the outside money coming into your district. So she's in a truly tough spot. You know, Joni Ernst can say what she wants. She's not worried about, upcoming election. Lankford, that's a different situation. But to get in the street, you do not want this to turn into a referendum on Donald Trump. If you're in Georgia and saw the results we saw Tuesday night, the Republicans who say, oh, it was fine, no big deal, they are whistling past the graveyard.
Yeah, what do you think about that, Philip?
No, I think that's exactly right. I mean, this is a seat that in any other election cycle with any other person in the White House probably would be an easy pickup or an easy hold for the Republicans. But that's not the case. That's not what we saw last night. Yes, it is certainly the case that there were some folks that thought that the Democrat was going to get to the 50% mark and avoid this runoff. That he didn't do so is, as was just said, that is not a victory for the Republican Party. The Republican Party should be able to hold the seat 80% of the time in a special election. The party that has a seat holds that seat. That's just the history of the thing. It should be an easy thing for them to do, particularly given the history of who has held that seat in the past.
Philip, why do you think some lawmakers are actually trying to keep their distance right now from President Trump?
Well, I think it's important to remember that President Trump is still historically unpopular for a president. This is not a popular president by most polling metrics. And as such, it is fairly easy then for elected officials. It's always beneficial for an elected official to stand apart from the party where they can, particularly someone more powerful in the party. This is a fairly easy way to do so. I mean, Senator Ernst being able to say the thing about spending less time in Florida, that's low-hanging fruit when it comes to being critical of the president. It gives her an opportunity to do so. He's not terribly popular. He's very popular among Republicans, but among Democrats and independents, far less so. And so it's an easy way for Joni Ernst to sort of, in a sense, cross the aisle without really ruffling any feathers.
Yeah, how far is too far, you think, Michael?
Well, listen, if you talk to Republican supporters of Donald Trump, one of the things they do is they trash him all. They always say, I really hate that Trump tweets all the time. I really don't like the way he talks to women. And then they tell you why it's absolutely essential for them for him to win or for him to carry the day or to stop the Democrats. And what we've seen in these special elections so far, there are a bunch of people out there who don't like Trump but really don't want to be governed by Democrats. The Speaker Ryan's PAC got involved in that race in Georgia, spent about $3 million, and they report that their polling told them that the number one vote mover wasn't Trump or whatever, it was Nancy Pelosi versus Paul Ryan. And Karen Handel was the Paul Ryan candidate. There were some Trump guys, none of them did very well at all.
That's right.
She got the action.
So what do you think we'll see in terms of strategy in that race?
Well, I mean, I think it's a totally valid question of whether or not Trump actually steps in heavily for Handel, right? I mean, if I were Handel at this point in time, at the point that was just made about how Trump actually had some favorite ponies in that race that didn't do very well. I mean, the Post Robert Costa pointed that out last night. If I'm Karen Handel, I don't want to have a lot of big rallies because this is a district, too, that, while it is +9, there's this thing called the Cook Partisan Voting Index that rates how partisan each district is. It's a fairly Republican district, but Trump only won by 1.5 points over Hillary Clinton, right? Trump is not a popular guy there, and it's not going to do her a lot of good to stand next to him and have that plastered on local television for a week. I mean, it's certainly a lot of strategies can come into play.
It's interesting because you see Mitt Romney won there in 2012 by something like 20+ points. So we'll keep an eye on that. Meantime, let me ask you about Congressman Jason Chaffetz. Do you think, Michael, it would be politically tenable for him to investigate a Republican president?
Absolutely. Jason Chaffetz has a reputation. He could investigate a Republican president. He could investigate a President Bush, a President Romney. He can't investigate a President Trump. nobody can investigate a President Trump because the mess is just too big. It is so politicized. And you and I have had this conversation before. I keep waiting for some facts. All these intercepts, all these, show me facts. But nobody's. The Democrats have their storyline. The Republicans have their storyline. And there is no winning here for Congressman Chaffetz or anyone else.
So what do you think? No-win situation, Phil?
No, I mean, I do disagree with that. I mean, there are facts that exist. The problem is that most of them are classified.
Right.
So there are certainly legislators on the Hill can see these things.
We don't
Chaffetz has
know
seen
what
these
they
things.
are.
Yeah, exactly. We can't see them, and the reporting that's come out is sort of sketchy around the edges around this classified information. It certainly seems like there's some smoke there, and it certainly seems as though if Jason Chaffetz wanted to launch an investigation, to have an investigation that was fairly robust, he would have a lot of support in doing so from the public. Yes, the key point there is he would be absolutely pilloried by partisan Republicans, which is a big problem for him. But he certainly could do it, and I think there certainly is enough smoke to do it.
Well, of course, House Intel Chair Devin Nunes was forced to step aside from the Russia probe, Michael, over criticism that he was too close to the president. What do you make of the fact that you basically now have the two top Republicans charged with investigating President Trump stepping aside effectively?
Well, Congressman Chaffetz, I think, is making a strategic move. Congressman Nunes made an unforced error because of the way he handled it. But I find it interesting, the storyline that he opened up, which is captured surveillance of people in Team Trump that goes back well past the short term of the of the period originally discussed, is there. Susan Rice's unusual involvement in it. There's a bunch of smoke there too. But to Philip's point, both sides are yelling at the other guy's smoke, going, "That's the only fire." The fact is, there are probably two fires here, and they probably are not very big, either one.
What do you think, Philip?
I mean, it's extremely hard to say.
Right.
I mean,
we have no window into the classified world
it's
of these investigations.
Yeah.
Okay. Finally, last question for you, Michael.
Okay.
I want to ask about Bill O'Reilly's departure from Fox News. Just a few weeks ago, President Trump said O'Reilly did nothing wrong, and the president has often tweeted about segments that he saw on Bill O'Reilly's program. What do you think his departure means for conservative commentary?
I think that the Bill O'Reilly moment, and one thing is funny, it's almost like Trump's success marked the end of O'Reilly, because O'Reilly was the voice of this populism, and now there's a much bigger voice, and that's President Trump. I'll say I was on the show several times. I did some events with Mr. O'Reilly. I would call him Bill, but he'd go, "Who are you?" But he was very gracious to everyone. So, what do I know? I will say that there's something though that's missed. I loved his toughness. I have no clue about his personal life. It sounds awful. I have no reason to doubt what we've been told. But the first time I was on O'Reilly as a guest, I honestly felt like this was me being hazed into the fraternity of people on cable TV, people who do what I'm doing right now. And when I got through Bill and survived, I felt like, okay, phew, I got my ticket punched. I get my driver's license. I'm ready to go.
Is there an heir apparent, you think, Michael, in the conservative media community?
There's such a divide. I mean, the handle race shows those divides. And there's so many different kinds of conservatives and Republicans, and you see that in Fox too. Tucker Carlson is going to get the job. We've been told Tucker's a great guy. He has a very different flavor than Bill O'Reilly did. But populism isn't going to go anywhere. But who needs a TV show talking about populism when you've got a president talking about it every day?
Interesting point. All right, Michael Graham and Philip Bump. Gentlemen, thank you both. Great to have you.
Of course.
Thank you.